Welcome to Canada. I work hard and pay 50% of my wage in taxes. I vote Conservative so my country could be saved from socialism. Because the current government does not respect my tax dollars, they give my money to other countries for gender rights, poop signs, and gender equality while healthcare at home collapses. Our youth are straight up unemployed, and our government will stop at nothing to keep prosperity in the ground, just to save the planet, of course, with Canada representing only 1.5% of total global emissions. I voted for change, but my vote is absolutely meaningless and garbage because my elected official could just cross the floor based on what direction the wind is blowing on a certain day. As long as there's a prestigious pay increase or job on the other side, I'm willing to just cross the floor and throw the entire country under the bus and watch the entire thing burn. Today is a sad day for Canada. We are in big trouble in this country. A new floor crosser has just crossed the floor to the Liberals, Matt Jeneroux, which resigned. He said he wants to spend more time with his family. So he decided to sell out his family, sell out his country, and sell out his constituents. Let's get into this report. Here is the announcement, but brace yourself. Have a
Yeah. Well, thank you everybody for coming here to a cold day in Edmonton, but especially you, Prime Minister. It is a real pleasure to have you here in Edmonton. You're always welcome in Edmonton, and we have a lot of history, both of us here in Edmonton, and it's a beautiful part of our country. So I had announced my resignation back in November, largely due to the family reasons, but quite simply couldn't sit on the sidelines after seeing what the Prime Minister was, the ambitious agenda he was undertaking across the country and across the world. And quite honestly, it was the speech in Davos where you took everything head on, and I think for me that's where a lot of the world changed. I think it opened a lot of eyes for Canadians, Albertans, Edmontonians, just how serious this national unity crisis truly is. And it's for me it felt disingenuous and quite simply wrong to be sitting on the sidelines anymore. So I reached out to the Prime Minister's office, and we'll be joining his caucus, and I couldn't be more proud to do this.
Excellent. Fantastic. Alors, merci beaucoup. Thank you very much. We got work to do. There we go.
Matt claims he's crossing floors because of a national unity crisis. I think he just created one. As Jason Levine says here on a post, I for one support Matt Jeneroux's decision to support Alberta's independence. He has shown Conservative Edmontonians clearly that your vote doesn't matter on a federal level. It never did. Now you will have a choice to fire Matt, Pierre, and all the MPs by supporting the referendum. If the Alberta independence movement was 30 or 35%, there's probably 20% of people that are in the middle saying, I want to give these liberals a chance, or actually, I want to give this minority government a chance. They didn't vote for floor crossers. This situation and handing over a majority government without the will of the people will surely wake up a huge movement within the province of Alberta towards independence. They have just lit an ignition switch. Last year, when Matt announced his resignation, he said it's because he wants to spend more time with his family. He's been working ever since. He didn't spend one day in retirement, and all of a sudden it says Matt Jeneroux has spent enough time with his family. He's a liberal now. Can you believe it? They've already updated the House of Commons. He's seated right in the middle. In the last election, 50% of the voters voted for Matt. This is a conservative stronghold. It's insane how fast Wikipedia is updated. It actually has him crossing the floor today, February 18th, having been part of the Conservative caucus since 2015. So he's been over a decade as a conservative, voted in the House of Commons 4 times as a conservative. He was also a conservative from 2012 to 2015 in provincial politics. This guy was always a conservative with conservative values. You don't change your values overnight. He actually probably hasn't changed his values. This was all about power. This riding was created 10 years ago and it's only gone to the conservatives. So basically him crossing the floor is a betrayal to all the people that voted conservative. This is a conservative riding. So he's not doing it for the constituents. He's doing it for raw power. Here is CBC News on Matt Jeneroux's floor crossing. I'll let you decide if he's lying.
But let's go through all of this. Starting with the fact that Matt Jeneroux is going to keep his seat for Edmonton Riverbed. Why is this interesting? Well, last fall, you might remember, rumors were swirling that he was going to cross the floor at that point, defect to the Liberals, and he did not. Instead, he announced that he was going to be resigning his seat. He said at that point that he wanted to spend more time with his family. He characterized this as an amicable break with his Conservative caucus. He said he had a positive conversation with Pierre Poilievre at the time, that his fellow Conservatives remained friends, that he would remain a loyal Conservative, still supported that party at that point, insisting really that this was not a loyalty question, that he would be stepping down because it was what was best for him. But he has not been present in the House of Commons in the months since, nor did he vote remotely in those key confidence votes that we were tracking, for example, on the federal budget last fall. This gave the impression that he already had basically one foot out the door, wasn't very engaged in being an MP anymore. We believed that there would be perhaps a by-election imminent for that Edmonton seat. But in a statement that he's now posted on his own social feed, Jeneroux says that he had conversations around his family's kitchen table this winter. He characterized these conversations as honest and difficult. And he said that he was reflecting on what the Prime Minister said at the World Economic Forum in Davos. And based on that, he has now decided to join the Liberal government's fight. The Prime Minister, in the post that he made, announcing that Jeneroux would become a Liberal, said that he was naming him now a special advisor on economic and security partnerships. Now, I was going over some of Matt Jeneroux's past as a parliamentarian on the opposition bench, and indeed, these kind of issues were among the ones that he was working on as a parliamentarian.
Matt Jeneroux has been fighting the Liberals for his entire time as MP, saying that the Liberal Party is the party of crime and chaos. Check this out.
Mr. Speaker, Edmonton's violent crime rate has increased 16.5% in just 12 months. And in 2022 alone, it represented the highest number of violent criminal incidents ever reported in a single year. The even scarier part, Mr. Speaker, this trend has carried into 2023, with violent criminal occurrences increasing by 6% in the first quarter of this year compared to the first quarter of last year. In fact, we're seeing a 68% of violent offenders who were arrested and released become involved with the police again. These are the highest rates of crime in our city's history. This is why organizations across the country are calling for bail reforms to keep violent offenders behind bars. After 8 years of the Liberals' catch and release crime policies, Canadians don't feel safe walking down the street or taking transit. In fact, Mr. Speaker, what's even scarier is that these policies are just making it worse.
Check out Frank Caputo right in this picture. We're going to take a look at what Frank Caputo has to say today. Supposedly, they were good friends. Here's a post from November 6th. Frank Caputo says, I'm honored to have served with Jeneroux. Matt Jeneroux is a friend who gave a lot in public service. Matt is one of the friendliest people I know. I wish him all the best. Frank is responding to his previous tweet. I won't delete this. This was after I was lied to, and more lies came after. Jeneroux will live his decision, character, and broken relationships. What do we have beyond our integrity? I'll sleep fine, staying true to my principles while I continue to fight for my people. How he could betray his friends is beyond me. Conservative MP Matt Strauss has a strong message. Today is a sad day. Canadians voted for change. We all knew the country was going in a bad direction. 43% of Canadians thought Mark Carney offered that change, and 41% thought Pierre Poilievre did. Myself, I believe the degree of change has been insufficient. We've been hurtling towards a cliff's edge, and Mark Carney has merely tapped the brakes instead of stopping and turning around. The houses aren't built. The pipelines aren't built. Crime, wasteful spending, and immigration fraud remain out of control. Our military is not rearmed. Bizarre DEI hiring in the bloated public sector continues. Groceries are too expensive and food banks are overwhelmed. We remain economically vulnerable to the craze outbursts of the US president, and our democratic elections remain vulnerable to Beijing's interference. Matt Jeneroux's decision today entrenches this brake-tapping approach to change, anti-democratic, and possibly another 3 years. I'm worried for my country today. I 100% agree with everything Matt has just said. I'm extremely worried for this country today. Matt Jeneroux's riding has always been conservative. He won 4 times as a conservative in this riding. You don't trade in your values without a prestigious position. He sold out his country for money and power. Jolie here is an absolute disgrace.
Pierre Poilievre is accusing the Liberal Party of getting a majority with dirty backroom deals. What is your response to that? Well, he just has to make sure he can keep MPs in his own party, that's all.
He just needs to be able to keep his own MPs in his own party. It's his own problem.
Look at her. Just look at her face. Absolute disgrace. The 3 floor crossers now, which is unprecedented, has locked their accounts. You wouldn't lock your accounts if you didn't do something that was horribly wrong. Locked. They've all shut it all down. Let's take a look at Jason Kenney now. This is very disappointing. Matt was elected as a conservative 6 times, twice provincially and 4 times federally, most recently less than a year ago. A Liberal has never been elected in this riding, so this runs against the clear direction of his constituents. It also contradicts his announcement 10 weeks ago that he was resigning to spend more time with his family. I've always regarded Matt as a good guy, but I hope he understands that these particular decisions will only increase public cynicism about politics. I also suspect he's going to have a hard time looking at his constituents in the eye, and many of his new Liberal colleagues will wonder if he can really be trusted. A cautionary note to Carney's government. Partisan types love tactical cleverness, but regular people often read it as cynicism. The Martin government introduced floor crossers did not turn out well for them in the end. I understand that MPs can change their views over time, and there can be legitimate reasons for deciding to change their parties. But in my honorable opinion, they owe it to their constituents to seek a mandate through a by-election if they decide to switch parties. As a premier, I had Alberta's legislative vote on the following motion to put MLAs on the record about this. They should later decide to change their parties. Be it resolved that the Legislative Assembly expresses its opposition to the practice of members changing their caucus affiliation unless that member is to sit as an independent or has resigned and been returned to the Assembly after being re-elected in a by-election under the new affiliation. I would encourage the House of Commons to consider a similar motion. Well, I like his message, but the House of Commons, Mark Carney, will do anything for a majority government so he could pass Bill C-8, Bill C-2, Bill C-9, Bill C-15, all of these bills will get approved if he gets the power of a king. Matt Jeneroux on November 7th said he would be donating his salary to a local charity, $58,000. I wonder what charity he sent all that money to. Or has he been collecting his salary and doing absolutely nothing for his constituents? And now he's remaining in his job. I would love to see the receipts of all of that donation. Let's take a look at the math at how close we are to a Liberal majority government.
The deal to pull Edmonton MP Matt Jeneroux from the Conservatives over to the Liberals has been in the works for nearly 3 months. But when the Conservatives learned last November that Jeneroux was about to cross the floor, they confronted him. And rather than cross the floor at the time, Jeneroux announced his intention to resign his seat, a resignation that he said would take place sometime early this year. But now, Jeneroux says he will not quit. He's going to stay on as an MP on the government benches. And Jeneroux now becomes the third Conservative to quit on Pierre Poilievre since last spring's election. That is unprecedented. Now, in a social media post, Jeneroux said he changed his mind after discussions with his family over the holidays, but he also hinted that Prime Minister Mark Carney's speech in Davos last month was a tipping point. Now, as for Carney, he too took to social media to welcome Jeneroux to his caucus and said he was going to give Jeneroux a new role as a special advisor on economic and security partnerships. Jeneroux's floor crossing follows Ontario MP Michael Maw, who, as soon as Maw crossed the floor, got to accompany Carney on his recent visit to China and sat in on meetings with Chinese President Xi Jinping and other top Chinese officials. Now, by giving Jeneroux and Maw those special roles, Carney is clearly telling any other Conservative backbencher who might be thinking about switching that Carney will find meaningful work for these floor crossers, helping to run the country. Now, to the House of Commons math. You need 172 seats for a majority. With Jeneroux's addition, the Liberals have 169. But there are 3 seats vacant in the House, and if the Liberals can win all 3, they will have that 172. But one of those seats is held by the Speaker, who normally does not vote, which means the Liberals really need one more floor crosser, plus those 3 by-elections, in order to have a working majority that would let the Liberals pass any budget bill or other legislation without the help of the opposition.
It's not over, Canada. They still need one more floor crosser. Now, let's take a look at the media spin on this breaking news. As expected, CBC is running with a brand new narrative. They act as if the people in Jeneroux's riding, which has never ever voted a Liberal in, only Conservative, now support the Liberals.
Heard perhaps within your circles on whether or not there could be more?
I haven't heard anything specific in terms of a particular person that's another person that would be crossing the floor, but I have heard a lot of frustration from Conservatives about where they're going. Of course, they put a good brave face at that convention, but it's very clear that Canadians are much more interested in Carney's approach. They want a positive, solutions-oriented kind of government, and Pierre Poilievre seems to be stuck in the politics of a couple of years ago, and he just can't get out of it.
The people of Matt Jeneroux's riding did not ask for him to cross the floor and join as a Liberal. They voted for a Conservative MP. So Canadians are not looking at Mark Carney's new vision of the new world, whatever. They're not looking at it and saying, this is the vision we want. This is an MP that double-crossed and backstabbed his constituents against their vote and joined the Liberal Party. CBC needs to be defunded. Rosemary Barton wanted to join in on the misinformation train on CBC. Chris D'Entremont received $420-something thousand for his riding. Thank you, Mark Carney, for the gift, because I crossed. He also received a $50,000 a year pay raise. And Michael Maw received a first-class ticket to China to get one-on-one talk with Xi Jinping. He also sits right next to Mark Carney in the House of Commons as if he's a pet dog. Yes, he got a promotion. And now we have Matt Jeneroux, which has a prestigious brand new position within the Liberal caucus. They all were purchased by Mark Carney. But nope, let's hear Rosemary Barton with her wonderful CBC spin clip.
Not only is he crossing the floor to the Liberal caucus, obviously staying on as an MP, but Mark Carney also in his social media post says that he will be a new special advisor on economic and security partnerships, that he will contribute to strengthening Canada's alliances and trade partnerships, and that he will play that role inside the caucus. In the case of the other two gentlemen who have crossed the floor, Michael Ma and Chris d'Entremont, there was nothing given to them to entice them to go to the Liberals. But in this case, obviously, there has been some sort of negotiation about what role Mr. Jeneroux could play inside the Liberal caucus. And while he's not in cabinet or has a senior job like that, he is going to do some sort of advisory work for the Prime Minister on economy and security. This means, of course, that this brings the Liberals ever closer to their sought majority. They have a couple of by-elections, 3 by-elections that need to be called in the next couple of weeks, with the departure of Bill Blair, Chrystia Freeland, and of course the riding of Terrebonne, where the Supreme Court said that another by-election had to happen. So there's a lot of moving parts in terms of whether they can get to that majority, but certainly taking another Conservative from Pierre Poilievre's team, although he was now no longer Conservative, is also a blow to Pierre Poilievre.
Of course, it's a blow to Pierre Poilievre, and it has nothing to do with Pierre Poilievre. They've all been offered something too lucrative to say no to. People do not change their values overnight. There is financial benefit and benefit of power. Rosemary Barton doesn't know that there are people like me that keeps receipts. Chris d'Entremont received federal funding for his riding of $431,000 as a gift for crossing the floor. And Michael Ma got that wonderful companionship with Mark Carney on the trip to Beijing to China. Oh, so sweet. First class for Michael Ma. There's a reason why they want all these floor crossers, because if they went to an election, Mark Carney's track record since becoming prime minister is dismal. Here's Canada's food inflation versus US food inflation. Donald Trump was elected here. It's flat across the board. Mark Carney was elected here. We are facing the worst food inflation in the G7 and around the world. Our food is on a rocket ship to the moon. Here are 5 of these staple items priced in the United States compared to Canada. All of these items are double in Canada. Some new statistics for everybody. What else has the Liberal government done to us? These 11 European countries put together since year 2000 to year 2024, 10,600,000 increase in population, 11 countries. Canada has the exact same as 11 countries in the same period. So if you're wondering why you can't find a family doctor and you have to wait 12 to 16 hours in a hospital for a doctor, it's because we have done this. It's been a tough day for Canada. So we're going to end off on a positive note. For all the coffee lovers out there, and I am one of them, prices are going to be heading down for summer. So you can sit on one of those sunny patios, enjoy a lower price for your coffee bean. Coffee futures has dropped sharply this week to about $2.80 per pound, the lowest level since November of 2024. If prices remain at these levels, we could start seeing some relief at the grocery stores by summertime. The food professor. That's it for today's report. I'm going to have to digest this new information and come up with a game plan for all of you. What do you think about the newest floor crosser? We're lucky. We still have a chance. One more seat is required in order to get that magical majority. Are they going to get there? Let's hope for Canada's future they will not. I'll see you on the next report.